Good afternoon, and welcome to the Wednesday afternoon conference call with Trusts Unlimited. This is Jim George speaking. I'm the non-attorney spokesman and facilitator for Trusts Unlimited, and I'd like to thank all of you for taking the time to listen to this call. Today is, again, October 9th. There's a lot to discuss, but this will be a shorter call. I'll explain in just a moment. First, by way of disclaimer, Trusts Unlimited is not the purveyor of the dinar and these other currencies. We're not advocating either the sale or purchase of these currencies, but as rather substantial currency holders ourselves. We're sharing with you the information we believe to be most relevant. Of course, our main concern is the window for the potential reinstitution of the Iraqi dinar. I have been discussing for some time now my belief that the backstop for the reinstitution would be January of 2025, although I would not be surprised or shocked if it were to happen before then. But if I do the math in terms of what's involved with the multinational contracts that Iraq has entered into to rebuild their infrastructure, currency swaps, and some of the other things that they're doing, seems to me that they're just going to run out of money in January. They're going to need to have a viable global currency. One of the reasons we're having a shorter call today, personal reasons, having to do with the hurricane. Of course, so we had Helen, and then followed right behind it Milton, which is just touching down in Florida. I have family in Tampa, and my wife actually has family in Fort Myers. In addition to that, I lived in Asheville, North Carolina for a number of years, and I have a lot of friends that still live there. Of course, as you know, Asheville is basically a crater at this point. It's really a shame. It's difficult, if not impossible, to get there, as the Route 40, the gorge between Knoxville, where I currently reside, and Asheville is completely washed out. In addition to the hundreds of known dead, there are still hundreds that are missing. I myself am having difficulty contacting my friends. I just found out this morning that my wife, who is a hospice nurse, is a volunteer, and she will actually be going with a group to Asheville to help them dig out. And unfortunately, they're going to be running across a lot of bodies, from what I understand. Certainly something I don't think I could handle, but as I said, she's a hospice nurse, and she can handle that. She asked me not to mention this, but I'm going to do it anyway. I think these storms, we had Helene, and now we have Milton, and now they say there's another one brewing. They're very suspicious to me because they're taking a very unusual route, cutting through Florida, Georgia, and North Carolina, roughly 3 weeks before an election, and these are, of course, all swing states. So I'm sorry, or I apologize for being suspicious, but it seems that every election year for the last 3 or 4 cycles, something weird happens, which always translates into difficulty voting. And it keeps happening, so I'm just not going to ignore the pattern. But let's go ahead and get into what I want to discuss briefly for today. Last Sunday, there was a meeting. Sudani Barzani, the president of Kurdistan, and Alak, the governor of the central bank, had a meeting with a number of bank executives dealing primarily with the transition to electronic banking, also with the assistance of the International Monetary Fund and the Bank of International Settlements. Now, this is important because electronic banking means that Iraq will be able to conduct transactions globally. And in my opinion, this means that they will be reinstituting their currency. It makes no sense to reestablish electronic global banking systems in a program rate. And it's just no more complicated than that for me. Now, if you've been into this investment for any length of time, you know what the drill has been. 2 steps forward, 1 step back. That's why I'm still looking to January. This is just my opinion, but when I look at everything they've done, the agreements they've entered into and everything, in my personal opinion, if they don't resolve all of this and have a global currency by the end of January, they risk the possibility of being a failed state. Again, that's just my opinion. That's my math. But that doesn't mean that this couldn't happen prior to that. Remember, Soudani's been saying it's going to happen this year. Now, of course, obstacles are being thrown in his way. I even think that part of the calculus of Iran trying to foment war with Israel, part of the calculus is they do not want to lose control financially of Iraq. They've been losing control systematically over the last few years, but the mullahs of Iran are concerned about themselves and only about themselves. So, as a matter of fact, I think Soudani made a comment about not wanting to get involved in any war. So there's a lot of things. There's still a little bit more of an uphill climb going on here, but the electronic banking could very well be the final phase of the monetary reform. I'm pretty much going to leave it there for today, but I did want to get into a discussion of the lifting of the 3 zeros, because I think that's kind of important. The provisional 3-0 currency currently in circulation in Iraq, and I'm going to try to, perhaps I'm oversimplifying this, was created, again, the 3-0 provisional currency was created to deal with hyperinflation in Iraq because of the wars and the mismanagement of Saddam Hussein and all of the things that he did. There was hyperinflation, meaning the cost of goods and services was beyond the capability of the average citizen to sustain himself. So they create the provisional 3-0 currency to deal with the hyperinflation so that the citizens of Iraq can exchange that currency for needed goods and services. While as time has passed and it's taken much longer than any of us anticipated, we're finally in Iraq getting inflation under control. It's time to delete the 3 zeros, or more simply put, eliminate the provisional 3-0 currency and return to the lower denoms that at one time existed. How does that affect us? Because what a lot of people are saying is the deletion of the 3 zeros will also affect us. Well, I guess anything's possible, but that's not the way I read it at all. What this means to me is that the citizens will return to a currency that they enjoyed prior to the creation of the provisional 3-0 currency, and they will have real purchasing power with a change in the exchange rate. So they will be exchanging their new valued currency in country for goods and services. We, as American citizens, will be exchanging our provisional 3-0 currency for U.S. dollars, utilizing the 3 zeros. That does not affect Iraq. That affects our money supply. But when we invested in Iraq, we did so by purchasing their currency. We purchased their currency with the hope and the expectation that we could exchange it for U.S. dollars at the right time. Well, we're getting very close to that right time. Some say it could be a matter of days or weeks. Again, I'm thinking more early 2025. I'll certainly take early 2025, but it comes before that. Wonderful. Wonderful. So again, we are very close, in my opinion. Again, this is going to be a short call today. If you're calling in for the first time, I apologize. This is a shorter call. I strongly suggest you go to our call of October 2nd because it has a much more detailed explanation of our trust package and how it works. We have our own issues in this country, and these peculiar storms are just one symptom of a larger problem. I think we're going to be going through a little bit more pain in this country. This is going to be a very unusual election cycle, not only leading up to the election, but irrespective of who wins, what's going to go on between now and Inauguration Day, and certainly what's going to happen after that. But if we're holders of the Iraqi dinar and some of these other currencies, I think we're going to have the personal wealth to withstand what's coming. Another issue, very briefly, is I expect to see the price of gold to increase substantially over the same period of time. So once we exchange our dinar, we may want to utilize some of that money to purchase some of the other currencies like the dong that will most likely follow the dinar. You also want to purchase tangible assets. Gold and silver is one, but then real estate and other things of that nature. But right now we have to get through the travesty going on in this country right now. And so I hope everyone is well, and I hope Florida, Georgia, and North Carolina can get the help that they need. Thus far, they haven't received it. I don't know what's going on with the federal government, but I just think the next couple of months are going to be really, really rough for this country. And the revaluation of these currencies would be welcome news, given all of the bad news that we're dealing with. It's pretty much all I wanted to discuss for today. There will be no Q&A for reasons I mentioned earlier in the call. If you'd like to contact us to get our initial no-obligation package, you can do it either by email or by phone. Listen to our call of last week, and you'll get all of that information. Thanks so much for listening to the call, everyone. Have a great week, and pray for this country. Bye-bye.